Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of Big Rig Banter, a show about all things commercial driving and transportation related. I'm your co-host Connor Smith.
And I'm your co-host Troy Diffenderfer.
The date is June 7th, 2017, and today we're going to be examining the Mind and Body Roadmap, so buckle up and get ready to roll on the road down to healthy living with Big Rig Banter.
Whether you're hitting the road or kicking back in the cab, it's time to take a load off with Big Rig Banter. Powered by AllTruckJobs.com, your source for finding the trucking jobs drivers really want. Get ready to shift into gear and let the conversations roll.
All right. Thank you all for joining us again for another episode here. And as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about healthy tips on the road, ways to stay fit, good habits to maintain on the road, and just the ins and outs of staying healthy, staying radiant.
But before we get into all that, Connor, why don't we talk about some news topics?
Sounds good.
All right, and our first topic for the news today is about Tesla releasing a little preview of an electric truck. And I know, Connor, you've written about electric trucks previously, and you're kind of the go-to expert when it comes to technology and trucking. So what do you got for us?
Expert may be a bit of an overstatement there, but I do like to keep up on the electric truck phenomenon. I covered the Nikola truck before, the Nikola 1 truck, which is half of Nikola Tesla's namesake there. Two different companies, however. But now Tesla, the famous electric car company, has also released their semi-truck, projected to be on the roads in September. And so the founder of Tesla Motors, Elon Musk, provided a glimpse at the new vehicle at a TED Talk during the 2017 TED conference in Vancouver. It shows this really cool, impressive-looking space-age tractor-trailer truck. It's got a high roof, appears to be trailer height, and probably a solar panel in it, is what people are saying. Really, all that's been released is just this artistic mock-up so far, but...
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm excited. It's almost like a space race when it comes to Tesla and the other companies, so it'll be exciting to see it move forward. But
yeah,
what else were you going to say?
So... one of the other features that people are talking about is the fact that it doesn't have any rear view mirrors on the sides.
That is weird.
And so they're saying, how is it going to be street legal? However, I'm guessing it's going to be cameras. They're going to have probably cameras that can outdo any visual, feedback you'd get from a mirror. But yeah, so not many other details are really out on this truck, other than the fact that Tesla is definitely entering the heavy-duty trucking market, and we're going to just have to keep tabs on it. But it... like you said, it's the race to who can do it first and who can do it the best, so we'll have to see. Obviously, the trucks are going to be, somewhat self-driving, that trademark Tesla feature with the Model S and some of their other vehicles, and so it's aimed at being a much safer truck than others on the roads, just with all the technology and the sensors and everything. So that's still a huge issue, is... having these trucks being able to make judgments themselves that maybe human drivers couldn't make as quickly as a computer. And that kind of leads us on to our next news topic here.
Yeah, and we hate to be the bearer of bad news sometimes, but there are a lot of dangers out there for truckers, and that includes some terrorist attacks. And there's an article recently about the TSA putting out an internal report warning of the potential for terrorists to use trucks as weapons. We've seen attacks like these this past July in Nice, France, that happened, and it killed 87 people. And there was also a similar attack in Berlin. So we know these issues are real, and terrorism and trucks it happens. And the TSA even put out some countermeasures, and that includes parking in secure areas, making sure your rigs are locked, refusing rides for hitchhikers and other strangers, and kind of ensuring the route compliance for drivers.
And that's all basic stuff, but in the context of terrorism, it becomes a lot more dire. to stick to those countermeasures, and just we'll all have to be working together to avoid similar situations with trucks being used as weapons in the future. And hopefully the rise of autonomous vehicles could help with that. I know we're not necessarily rooting for self-driving vehicles to become a reality, although it could be one solution to avoiding attacks like this in the future. All right, and on to our final news topic for the day. The Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, that's the CVSA, is having their 30th annual International Road Check, which started yesterday and is running until tomorrow, June 8th, where inspectors are going to be leading drivers through a 37-step procedure that includes an examination of both driver operating requirements and vehicle mechanical fitness. So that's pretty much everything involved with your day-to-day driving experience. Drivers are going to be required to provide items such as their driver's license, hours of service documentation, motor carrier registration, and shipping documentation. And inspectors will be checking drivers for seatbelt usage and other things like the influence of alcohol and or drugs. Then the actual vehicle inspection includes checking items such as your brake systems, cargo securement, coupling devices, driveline, drive shaft, exhaust systems, your frame, fuel systems, lighting devices, also your steering mechanism, suspension, tires, van, just everything. Just the whole rig is going to be looked at, so make sure you have all of your ducks in a row and that it's all looking good for this inspection. It's an important time to really nail this road check.
Yeah, and luckily it's only a weekend. I mean, we know something like this is a pain in the ass, so it's good to have that weekend where you thoroughly go through everything. I know a lot of you truckers don't really have the time or the patience to go through your entire rig, but something like this is important. You can figure out things that might be broken that you didn't know, or things you were doing wrong. So this trucking inspection is really important.
That's right, and we'll be right back after this quick break.
Wherever the job takes you, Big Rig Banter is here to bring you the latest in industry topics, trends, and more. Stay tuned after this short break.
All right, folks, and now it's time to get into our main topic. And first, we're going to hit on some healthy eating habits. And I know, Connor, me and you have very different eating habits. For lunch, I tend to go with any fast food restaurant within a 5-mile radius, while you tend to stay on the healthier side.
That's pretty accurate, yeah. Everybody's always ratting on you because you bring McDonald's into the office and then they want it, and you tempt them with the Mickey D's.
I know, what can I say? Me and Ronald are pretty tight.
But that's not to say that you truckers should have the same habits, especially if you're driving long hours and you're sitting down, you're maybe not getting as much exercise as you'd like. You can offset some of that with planning your meals out ahead of time and really just sticking to a nice, healthy diet, and it'll come around to help you out in the long run. It really will. So to start, we're going to just look at breakfast. I mean, it's been said it's the most important meal of the day. It's the, when you wake up, your metabolism is just searching for some calories, and it'll get your brain going. It'll get everything about your day just on the right track. So some of the things that we recommend or we've found are some of the better options for a healthy breakfast include things like oatmeal, fresh fruit, low-fat yogurt, hard-boiled eggs, and protein in cereal bars. It's important to get protein in the beginning of the morning.
Yeah, guys, put down the McGriddle, put down that cold slice of pizza, and we really want you to pick up something healthy. You need that energy boost, especially when you get up. Coffee's fine in the morning, but you really need some protein and something to kickstart that metabolism while you're on the road.
That's right, and try to avoid any sugar early in the day because that can cause crashing midday to afternoons. And I don't mean crashing as in causing an accident. I just mean your blood sugar and, your overall mood. You'll become drowsy. So that's not good, although it could lead to crashing, now that I think about it, actual accidents. However, I digress, and now we're going to talk about lunch. Lunch is the second most important meal of the day. So this is where you get the rest of your energy for the remainder of your working hours, unless you're driving the night shift. So Troy, what do you usually have for lunch? What is something that you enjoy that gives you energy in the middle of the day that keeps you going, keeps your brain fired up like a coal furnace?
Well, I would like to say McDonald's or Taco Bell, but I do tend to eat healthy from time to time. I like a good sandwich, and one of my favorite sandwiches to make is a tomato and avocado sandwich. It's simple, it's easy, it's something you can make on the road pretty quickly, and it gives me energy in the morning. And wraps are also a big thing. I love a nice turkey wrap, something with tortilla, usually whole wheat, because whole wheat's a lot more healthy. Throw some lettuce and cheese and mustard in there, and you got a healthy lunch that's pretty easy to make.
Yeah, those are all great suggestions there. They're foods that are going to give you clean energy, that are going to, keep you going. So yeah, those sound like great lunches.
And they're easy to handle on the road. They're great hand food. Sandwiches and wraps are great to, of course, we don't condone driving while eating, but you do want something that's pretty easy and it's not messy.
Yeah, and kind of going off that ease of eating idea, something cool that we saw on the internet here is that people are making mason jar lunches, which is kind of cool because you can plan ahead for several meals. Essentially what you're doing, you're just making salads or really anything. You can put, like cold cut meat in there. You can put, hard-boiled eggs, different types of things mixed with salads, the normal salad ingredients, but you essentially just store several portions in mason jars, and then you can keep them in your fridge if you have a mini fridge. And they're just quick, easy, really healthy choices to make. And, part of the thing with healthy eating is that people don't want to think about having to do it. They just want to eat the healthy food and move on.
Yeah, and they want it to taste good, too. You don't want to eat you're on the road all day. Eating is one of the kind of the best things to look forward to after a long day, and you want something that tastes good as well. All right, and it's time for my personal favorite part of the day, and that is snacks. Connor, you see me snacking all day in the office. Some healthy, some not so healthy, but for this segment, we're going to focus on some healthy snacks, and that's things like trail mix. That's a big snack that I prefer during the day. It has some energy, usually some peanuts, some almonds, raisins.
What does energy taste like?
A little chocolate. It tastes pretty good, and that's something you want on the road. But what are some other snacks that you kind of prefer, Connor?
I like fruit. Fruit's good.
Okay.
It can be high in sugar, so if you're, diabetic or something like that, or you're just sensitive to sugar, you have to watch out how much fruit you actually eat. It can sneak up on you, especially apples. Apples have a ton of sugar, and people don't realize that. But
and fruit is handheld too, which is also nice.
That's correct. Yeah, anything that you can just kind of, you don't want to be munching throughout the day because it's not efficient. But picking the right healthy snacks, as I said, things like fruit, like you mentioned, trail mix, low-fat string cheese, even if you want a savory, more salty alternative. Hummus and veggies are, that's full of protein. That's full of all of the nutrients provided by vegetables. So, why not just, snack on something healthy like that? Low-fat yogurt, whole grain crackers, beef jerky, and popcorn's a good one. They're, as long as it's not drenched in butter, obviously. But, go with just, simple stuff, but try to make the healthy choice whenever you can, because like I said earlier, it will come back to pay off in the future when you don't have to spend as much on health bills.
All right, and now it's time for dessert, right, Connor?
Well, if you don't eat your meat, you can't have any pudding. How can you have any pudding if you don't eat your meat, Troy? We have to go to dinner first.
All right.
So dinner is one of everyone's favorite meals of the day because, it's that last meal, so you really try to make it count. You try to make it special a lot of the time. And if you're on the road, it's tempting to just stop at whatever rest stop you are checking into for the night and just get what's available. But still, you do want to have the healthy options available to you. So, Troy, what do you usually get for dinner? What would you think would be a healthy choice? Maybe at a rest stop that would be available.
All right, well, I want something hearty. I want something that will fill me up. I know I do like snacking, but I try to avoid it as much as I can. So something like a stew is a great alternative. It has meat, potatoes, vegetables, kind of the essentials. Again, a sandwich is a great alternative, something healthy with whole wheat bread. But what about you, Connor?
I do try to generally stay away from meat. I don't eat as much of it as other people. I'm not necessarily vegetarian. So I'm a big fan of things like pasta. Whole wheat pasta is good. Pesto, sauce, maybe if you don't want to go with the red sauce. I know that can be quite acidic and can give people heartburn. Personally, I experience that often with the more acidic tomato sauces. So
yeah, and throw in a salad while you're at it.
yeah, just go for it. There's never a wrong time to eat a salad unless your body is craving more carbs and proteins. Mm-hmm. But, you can work that into a salad as well. Maybe this would be a good time to break into one of those mason jar salads that you've got lying around. But, yeah, just try to, get your basic nutrients, your 5 food groups whenever you can. You got your grains, your meats, your dairy, your fruits, and your veggies. So, build that pyramid. The food pyramid, I mean, and yeah, just cover all the basics.
All right, and now it is finally time for dessert, Connor. I know you've been waiting for it. You have a sweet tooth in the office, so what are some options that you kind of like that are both healthy but also taste really, really good?
Well, I'm a big ice cream guy.
Okay.
So
low fat, though?
Low fat. Yes, and also non-dairy if possible, because I just, it stopped agreeing with me over the years. So I like to go with a cashew ice cream is a good one. It has that nice creamy consistency, and it's easy for portion control as well. If that's something that you need to look into, you can just do like a scoop a night or after dinner or whenever, but it's easy to measure out and know how much you're consuming. Unlike things maybe like a piece of cake or something like that, which can vary given the icing and the other ingredients in it and stuff like that. But yeah, I also just like a nice little piece of dark chocolate as well for those health benefits. Dark chocolate's actually one of the most healthy things you can eat, remarkably, but it has to be I think 75% cacao and over. It has to be very dark chocolate. It has to have
and you can't go overboard with it. We don't want you eating a couple bars of Hershey's dark chocolate, but it is a nice little treat to give yourself every night.
That and just tea. I just like a nice cup of tea afterwards, slightly sweetened, but it's a nice thing to help with digestion. I like ginger teas are good for that kind of thing. So after you've had your meal, just to get a nice warm glass of tea in you, it's going to do wonders. All right, and so in addition to healthy eating, you also have to stay hydrated. That's very important. It'll help with basically every bodily function that you have going on. It's recommended that the average adult drinks about 8-ounce glasses, which equal about 2 liters or half a gallon a day. So we can call this the 8x8 rule to make it easy to remember. But, it is best to drink mostly water. If you're drinking sugary drinks and stuff like that, you might as well be subtracting an 8-ounce glass of water or more from your overall hydration regimen. Teas are a good alternative if you are trying to curb some of your intake of sugary drinks or maybe sodas or things like that. So yeah, just make sure you stay hydrated. It's very important to the overall health of your body. And equally important to maintaining your overall health is getting on a healthy exercise schedule. And Troy, I know you've been looking into some of the best ways for truckers to be fit on the road, so why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've found?
Yeah, I'll just hit on a few exercises. You can do it in the cab or right outside your cab, which is nice. Things like an inverted push-up, which is just a push-up, but you have your feet kind of inverted above your head slightly, so you can prop them up on your fender or your step up to your cab, which is nice. Dips is another great one you can do right on the front of your fender to work those arms. And then crunches is another good one. You can do that, either find a nice grassy spot at a rest stop or even do them in your cab. Lunges are a great way to work the legs. And then finally, hand stretching. I know it doesn't sound that important, but your hands do get cramped and tired from gripping that steering wheel constantly. Now we covered what kind of exercises to do, but Connor, why don't you talk about where we can do them?
Well, as you mentioned, it is good to find things you can do involving your truck or in the cab. But it's also, if you want a more comprehensive workout exercise experience, it might be worth considering getting a gym membership. I know that Planet Fitness has the Black Card, which will allow you to use your gym membership at any location around the country. So that could be nice if you could get one card that when you find a location, you can just easily keep up with your physical fitness. And maybe some other ways to do that. You could get things like a Fitbit or any other tracking device that will help you kind of stay on top and stick to a schedule. Besides just, meeting your own driving goals and things like that. And Troy, I know you were looking into, some of the better technologies to do that for truckers.
Yeah, I was looking specifically into the Fitbit. There's a ton of different versions of it, and that's probably one of the better pieces of technology you might want to invest in. The prices kind of range. You can get one as low as $50, or there's some more higher class ones, but a Fitbit really, it'll track things like your heart rate, as well as kind of how long you're working out, and a bunch of other different diagnostics that might be important to you when you're maintaining your health. I know high blood pressure is prevalent in truckers, so that might be something to get so you can monitor that. But
yeah, and sleep is another one. It can also monitor how well you're sleeping, when you're sleeping. And that's another thing that's entirely needed. That's super important for truckers to stay on top of as well, from both a legal perspective and a health perspective. So typically, younger adults, if you're 18 to 25, your sleep range should be like 7 to 9 hours a night. But adults 26 to 64, which is a gigantic range of people, you're still going to actually need about the same amount of sleep. But once you get over 65, you actually need less sleep, remarkably. You need 7 to 8 hours. But yet, a good rule of thumb is just to get a solid 8 hours of sleep whenever you can. And to make sure that it's consistent, make sure you're not waking up in the middle of it. It's important that you reach that REM stage, rapid eye movement, that is, when your brain waves are at the right regenerative frequency.
yeah, and to help truckers out, there are regulations in place that kind of ensure that you're at least trying to get some sleep and that you're not spending days at a time on the road. The hours of service regulations focus on when and how long you're allowed to drive by placing specific limits on the amount of time you drive your truck and kind of how many total hours you can work before you have to get some sleep. You must follow 3 maximum duty limits at all times. There are a 14-hour driving window limit, the 11-hour driving limit, and the 60-hour per 7 days and the 70-hour per 8 days limits. So these are kind of put in place to make sure that you're not burning yourself out, and that's a huge hazard, is falling asleep behind the wheel. And it's something that we really want you guys to take in consideration. Sleep and your health is more important than making that trucking journey. So when you need sleep, you should be getting it.
But that may actually be difficult for those of you who have sleep apnea and other things that might not permit you to sleep very well at night. And actually, sleep apnea is a huge concern in the trucking industry. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's basically just a breathing-related sleep disorder that causes brief interruptions of breathing during sleep. These pauses in breathing can last at least 10 seconds or more and can occur up to 400 times a night. So it's actually a serious, potentially life-threatening condition that often goes unrecognized and underdiagnosed. So some of the risk factors for sleep apnea include a family history of sleep apnea, obviously, having a small upper airway, being overweight, having a recessed chin, a smaller jaw, or a large overbite. Also, if you have a large neck size, considered by the FMCSA to be 17 inches or greater for men or 16 inches or greater for women. You're also prone to sleep apnea. Additionally, smoking and alcohol use can contribute to it, and being 40 or older are all things that might increase your risk for sleep apnea. And so some of the symptoms to look out for include loud snoring, morning headaches if you notice you're waking up and you're still feeling completely exhausted or even nauseous in the morning. That can be a sign you have sleep apnea. You may just be irritable or feeling depressed and may not even know why, and this could be the cause as well. So having a good sleeping schedule affects everything from your concentration to your memory to just your general well-being. And because this can leave you feeling tired behind the wheel, you may jump to things like caffeine. But over time, excessive caffeine consumption is also not very good for you. So, Troy, I know you were looking into some alternatives for caffeine, and what did you find there?
Yeah, I was actually looking into it for myself at first. I know we've had discussions about caffeine alternatives. I tend to go towards the Red Bull or the sodas more often than not, and I know that's not good for you, and it's not good for you truckers while on the road. I know many of you will choose an energy drink or too many cups of coffee to kind of stay awake, but there are alternatives to this caffeine that are a lot healthier and better for your body. Tea is a big one. There's things like yerba mate, which is an alternative tea to coffee, and it provides nutrients and kind of gives you that same coffee buzz, but it doesn't allow the crash that most caffeine products will give you. Another one is smoothies. They are also tasty. Making a smoothie with some bananas and strawberries and a little bit of peanut butter in it is a great way to kind of keep that pep in your step while avoiding that crash. And then a final one is exercise. We've talked about exercise previously, and that's always a good natural way to kind of get your body awake. Doing some stretches when you wake up or even some light calisthenics is a great way to make sure you're up and ready to tackle the day and ready to continue on your journey.
Another one I like is just green tea as well. It has a fraction of the caffeine that coffee has, but it actually the way that teas work in your body is they're a little bit more like time released. So when you crash from coffee, it's because it's all been used up at once, whereas tea is much more, it's easier on your system and it can last longer with less caffeine, so it's ultimately more efficient.
Yeah, and not only can they help you get awake, they can actually help you fall asleep. Connor, I know know some teas that help you fall asleep. That's one of a great natural sleep aid for many people.
Yep, chamomile tea, it's a classic, but that's a good one to relax. And there's another one that's just sleepy time tea. I don't know.
Even melatonin is a great another little tea to add to your
that
arsenal.
And valerian root, but you have to be careful with that one. Can be hard on your organs. But there are definitely other things to try as far as getting to sleep and avoiding caffeine. But still, sleep apnea, it can't be solved with just a simple switch in your diet all the time. It might actually require some masks or some machinery to help you breathe at night. There are monitoring devices that can tell when you've stopped breathing and can either continue to push fresh air to your lungs or basically alert you when it's happened, and so you can kind of measure that.
Yeah, and if you do feel like your sleep issue is becoming a problem, you might want to consult a doctor and actually think about getting a sleep study done, because unfortunately, if your sleep apnea is too severe, it might actually disqualify you from driving a truck.
Yeah, and that hints on another issue of how you can visit the doctor on the road. You may be traveling all over the country and your family doctor isn't available, obviously, so what can you do? Where can you go to seek either immediate medical attention or something for a long-term or chronic condition? It may be best to just pop into an urgent care center or something like that for minor injuries or, common illnesses and stuff like that. They're also pretty much everywhere in the country. But if you do need to make an appointment for something very specific, there really aren't that many other options beside just scheduling an appointment for when you have home time. And as a rule of thumb, it's usually good to schedule the appointment a little bit later than when you'll actually get home, just so that you definitely get that attention that you need. And so in addition to your physical health, you also really have to consider what you're doing to maintain mental health as well. Depression and mental illnesses are prevalent in the trucking community. And the first step to really getting treatment is recognizing the signs and symptoms of mental illness. And so when we're talking about depression, either in adults, young children, or even adolescents, some of the symptoms can include confused thinking, prolonged sadness or irritability, feelings of extreme highs and then extreme lows emotionally, excessive fears, worries, and just general anxieties. People with depression can become socially withdrawn, and they can experience dramatic changes in their eating or sleeping habits, as well as strong feelings of anger. And, with more severe mental illnesses, things like bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, people may even experience, strange thoughts or delusions. It's possible you can see or hear things that aren't really there. And even suicidal thoughts and substance abuse and, the more serious side of what can occur with mental illness. So again, with recognizing the symptoms, it's important to acknowledge the fact that there is help out there. And if whether it's for your own self or if you see it in someone else, try to get them to seek help, professional help, treatment options and things like that. And Troy, I know you were looking what treatment options were available. What have you got for that?
Yeah, there was 3 main treatment options. It's therapy, medication, and meditation. And a good recommendation is to use a combination of these 3. Therapy, it's always good to talk to someone, whether it's a family member or in many cases a trained professional. Talking through issues like this can be a really important thing. It's important to get some of that stuff off your chest every now and then. We always need someone to vent to, and that's huge. Trucking on the road can be a very isolating experience, so it's important that we have someone to talk to and someone that we can kind of share our thoughts and feelings with. And along with that comes medication. You might be prescribed medication that might help with your anxiety or depression or other mental illness, and it's important not to be ashamed of that. There's literally millions of people that take medication for their mental illness, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. And it might be a good way to kind of help you get back on track and live a happy and healthy lifestyle. And then finally, meditation is another great thing you can do while on the road. Just taking a few minutes every day to kind of relax and think over things can do wonders for your mental health. It's important that you take some me time and really kind of hang out and just take some time off to really evaluate what's going on and see if you can't figure it out yourself. So these are 3 kind of crucial treatments that you might be able to take advantage of. And there's also hotlines available, the suicide prevention hotline and a variety of other different hotlines that'll help those suffering from mental illness. And we will list them below so you can take advantage of them as well.
And so kind of going off of the mental health aspect of staying fit on the road is maintaining a spiritual life, if that's something that is of use and interest to you. Whatever your denomination and or spiritual belief system, you're going to want to try and work it into your life as a trucker, because things can move quickly. You can be on the road, you can be traveling all over the place, and it's good to maintain some semblance of philosophic order. And so there are churches on the road. If you're looking for a Christian chapel, there are Hindu temples, temples if you're Jewish. There's all sorts of things, mosques. Or maybe you're just into, the Tao, and you like to understand the flow of nature and how it relates to the human consciousness and intellect.
That's true. It's important to take a few minutes out of your day to practice whichever religion you follow, as well as try to work in some meditation. We do have a blog written on the mindfulness of meditation for truckers, and you can check that out at the link below over at AllTruckJobs.com.
And one thing to kind of note is that meditation isn't necessarily a spiritual or religious thing. It can just be a health thing. Mm-hmm. You don't have to contextualize meditation to make it effective, essentially. You can just sort of sit down in a nice quiet place and focus on your breathing for a little bit until the point where you're just sort of merging with this sense of calm. That's more or less what you're trying to do. You're not trying to, really do anything other than to meditate. So don't be turned off from the idea. Anybody can meditate regardless of their religion, and it'll probably enhance whatever religion you follow if you do end up meditating.
Exactly. And all right, guys, that kind of wraps things up for this segment. We hope we were able to kind of guide you through this health roadmap of the mind, body, and spirit. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter at AllTruckJobsUSA. We are also happy to announce that we have our very own Big Rig Banter social media site, so you can find us on Twitter at Big Rig Banter or on our Facebook page. So feel free to give us a like, a follow, give us some comments and feedback. We do want to hear what you have to say. But first, let's take a break.
Wherever the job takes you, Big Rig Banter is here to bring you the latest in industry topics, trends, and more. Stay tuned after this short break.
All right, Connor, so would you rather haul circus animals or secret government UFOs?
What's the difference, really? I'm kidding. I would do the UFOs. I would haul those UFOs. That'd be crazy cool. And then I would know all the government secrets about all their black projects and, their involvement with the extraterrestrial race who has given us their technology since the Second World War. That would be dope. That would be great. I would be into that. The only problem with that is I would probably end up dead by the end of it because I am bad at keeping secrets. But yeah, I would probably let it all spill out on Wikipedia. So if any of you CIA operatives or, dark government workers are listening to this podcast, you already know that I'm on your list, so.
All right, well, I will probably choose the circus animals simply because I don't think I'd be able to keep that secret either. I'd want to tell you. I'd want to tell all my friends. I'd definitely be Snapchatting that the whole time.
All the way.
Throwing it on the gram. But I'm going to haul circus animals. I like animals. I think I'd be able to handle it.
Would you set them free? Would you drive them off into the wilderness and release them? That is
tempting. I might have to set them free, but I don't know if Lancaster, Pennsylvania wants some tigers and elephants running around. But depending on where I'm hauling them, I might actually let them go. That is a good point.
I mean, we don't have any around here. They're relatively extinct to this area, so you'd be reintroducing them to the wild.
That is true. I could create my own little rescue pasture.
Petting zoo.
Exactly.
Circus animal tiger petting zoo. All right. So for the next would you rather listen to your favorite song forever on the road or no music at all?
That's an easy one. I don't think I could handle myself without any music, and I'd be fine with listening to my favorite song, and that favorite song is Firewoman by The Cult. For you truckers out there, it's a great trucking song to listen. It's a 80s rock ballad, and it definitely brings the thunder, if you know what I'm saying, Connor. But
I believe I do.
What about you?
Well, while it's not necessarily my favorite song ever, I think I would choose that option as well. But I would listen to Dope Smoker by Sleep basically forever because it's an hour-long song. If you've never heard of the band Sleep, they're a quintessential 90s stoner rock band.
Okay.
It's just an hour long of completely detuned droning guitars and chanting. And it's an hour long, so I would listen to that because it's just warm and fuzzy and freaking cool.
All right, so let us know, truckers, what if you could only listen to one song, what song would you listen to while on the road? Remember, hit us up on our very new social media sites at Big Rig Banter on Twitter and our Big Rig Banter Facebook page. But for our final Would You Rather, Connor, let's say you're driving down the road, you see a hitchhiker along the side of the road. Who would you rather pick up between Chuck Norris or The Rock?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Well, first of all, because Chuck Norris, if you get into trouble in any capacity, he will save the day. But he doesn't necessarily seem like the best conversational partner.
That is true.
And The Rock is like a really nice dude, and I feel like he could just be cool to hang out with in general, while maybe not being so proficient in thwarting crime. You know,
he is pretty jacked, though.
He's still probably really good at it. I mean, I've seen some of the Fast and Furious movies, so he's got that, that motor vehicle experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a tough call. I'm gonna go with The Rock.
I'm going to agree with you there. As a huge wrestling fan, I grew up with The Rock, so I smell what he's cooking all the time, and I would definitely want to bring him on the road with me. We could talk about his great wrestling moments as well as his career, talk about the new Baywatch movie that he's coming out. That's a free plug for The Rock right there for that Baywatch movie.
That one was for free.
Yeah, so I would definitely go with The Rock as well.
I mean, and at that rate, too, if Chuck Norris is hitchhiking, he's picking you up.
That is true.
So it's not really, I guess, a scenario that we can even play out.
I gotcha.
So for our next topic, I'm going to ask you here, Troy, what is the most annoying thing on the road when you're driving? We both drive here to work every day, but what do you think is the most annoying thing when you're driving? What really grinds your gears? What irks your chain, or whatever the expression is?
I'd have to say, just to give you listeners a little background, our office is in downtown Lancaster. It's in the city, and I think road work in the city is probably the most infuriating thing that I have to deal with on a daily basis. It seems like every single road often has road work. It's often one lane. I'm sitting in traffic waiting for one lane to move while the other one is at a standstill. So I'd have to go with that. I know they're constantly working on these roads, but they seem like they're never done, and they're always taking a toll on my vehicle. So that's got to be the most infuriating aspect of traveling the road. What about you, Connor?
I mean, that's a big thing because Pennsylvania does have the most roads, I think, out of any state in the United States. So we probably experience that much more often than most places. But actually, the thing that gets me most annoyed on the road is people not using turning signals. It's not hard. It's a little lever that you push down with one of your hands, and it's doing you a favor by indicating to other drivers not to cut you off or drive around you or anything like that. So if anybody who's operating motor vehicles is listening to this right now, use your turning signal, because I will find you and I will jump inside your car and pull it down for you if I see that again.
You're getting pretty heated. All right, so let's hit on that final topic. This is probably one of our favorite ones, Connor. We got to talking the other day about our pets, and then we started talking about what it would be like taking our favorite pets on the road. We're both cat owners, and we're both very proud furry friend parents. But so your cat's name is Gooby, am I right?
His real name is Buddy, but cats, as most people know, never just have one name.
That is true.
They somehow the names of the cats continue to evolve with every interaction. So at the moment, yes, my cat's name is Gooby Daniel or Abracadaniel, whichever you please.
So what would it be like taking him on the road?
He would flip out. He would hate it. And then he would get tired and fall asleep. Okay. And then he would repeat that activity indefinitely until he had returned to his place of residence. And Yeah, he's not an outside cat.
Okay.
So he wouldn't do very good. He's only a year old, so it wouldn't work. What about you? Who would you bring? Which cat would you bring on the road with you if possible?
I would bring my little princess. Her real name is Haley, but everyone calls her Big Girl because she is, in fact, a big girl. She's big and gray and adorable and cute, and luckily for you, we're both going to post pictures of us with our furry friends so you can check out, and we also want to hear you. We also want to see you post pictures of your traveling companions, so feel free to post them on our Facebook page and our Twitter. But I think Big Girl wouldn't mind it. She tends to just chill out, and she does only like me. I'm the only one that's allowed to pet her, or else she will claw you, which is pretty cool because I feel honored that I am given the opportunity to pet her as much as I want, and I think she would just chill in my lap while I'm driving along the road. She would sleep a lot, and she does like to eat. So I'm sure she could help me with my healthy eating diet on the road, too.
She sounds like a natural-born commercial driver.
She is. She is the best.
Well, there you have it, folks. Thank you all for joining us again for another episode of Big Rig Banter. Tune in next time for our episode on the current driver shortage, entitled Fixing the Driver Shortage for the Long Haul. I'm your host, Connor Smith.
And I'm Troy Diffenderfer.
And this has been Big Rig Banter.
Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Big Rig Banter. For your next job, check out AllTruckJobs.com, the premier online source for finding the best driver jobs in the country. Browse hundreds of positions by freight or driver type to get back on the road with confidence. Click subscribe to keep the conversations coming. Until next time on Big Rig Banter.